In this video, we're going to look at how to solve trigonometric equations. The most important thing to remember with trig equations is that to solve them, you're solving for the angle. So you're always going to be pressing Shift Sine, Shift Cos, or Shift Tan on your calculators. Next thing, we are only looking at the solutions if your final answer is between 0 and 90 degrees. In other words, solutions in the first quadrant. We will look at the general solution in further quadrants in grade 11. So we're just going to look at trig equations for grade 10 this year. In example 1, we have to solve for x if sine x is equal to a half. So on your calculator, you're just going to press Shift Sine 0,5 or Shift Sine of a half, and you should get an answer of 30 degrees. Just remember to include the degree sign in your answer. If cos x is equal to 0,766, you're going to type Shift Cos 0,766 in your calculator, and you end up with an answer of 40 degrees. With sine of x plus 20 is equal to 0,85, we see sine as the first thing written on the line. That's the piece I'm going to get rid of first. So on my calculator, we're going to type in Shift Sine first of 0,85, which leaves me with the whole bracket in the next line because I haven't worked with anything inside the bracket yet. So if I go Shift Sine 0,85, I'm going to end up with 58,2 degrees. But this is the answer for x plus 20 degrees. And I still need to get x on its own. So we take 20 degrees over to the other side and we end up with 38,2 degrees, because 58,2 minus 20 gives me 38,2. So the most important thing with trig equations is to do the processes in order that you see them from left to right. So in this case, I saw sine first. That's what I get rid of first, and then I move on. With example 4, I've got cos 2x is equal to 0,5. And the first thing I see on the line is the cos. So that's the first thing I'm going to deal with. So on my calculator, I'm going to type Shift Cos of 0,5. And this will give me the answer for 2x. So Shift Cos of 0,5 gives me 60 degrees. But this is the answer for 2x. So if I want to know the answer just for x, I'm going to divide by 2. So x is 30 degrees. Example 5, now this is starting to get a little bit more tricky. Now first we're going to work with this as an equation. So the first thing I need to move is that minus square root 2. I need to move that over to the other side, as I normally would do with an equation. Then the next thing I need to do is divide by 2. So I end up with sine of 2x minus 15 is equal to square root 2 over 2. So now before I work with 2x minus 15, I have to work with sine. Sine is the first thing I see on that line. So I'm going to go Shift Sine square root 2 over 2, and we end up with an angle of 45 degrees. But this is for 2x minus 15. I still have to solve for x. So we will take 15 degrees over to the other side. So 45 plus 15 is 60 degrees, and divide both sides by 2. So we end up with x is equal to 30 degrees. Let's try a few more. Example 6 is very similar to example 5. We first have to take minus 1,866 to the other side, and it becomes positive. Next thing I need to do, next thing I see on my line is a half tan 3x minus 15. So to get rid of the half, you can either divide by a half on the other side, or you can multiply by 2. So 1,866 multiplied by 2, or 1,866 divided by a half, and I get 3,732. The next thing I see on my line is tan. So we want to deal with the tan, so we're going to go Shift Tan and leave the bracket till last. So Shift Tan of 3,732, and I end up with 75 degrees. If I take 15 degrees over to the other side, 75 plus 15 is 90 degrees. So 3x is equal to 90. So x on its own will be 30 degrees. I just divide both sides by 3. In question 7, we're going to look at how this works with reciprocal functions. If I've got square root 3 cosec x equals 2, the first thing I see on the line is square root 3. So I'm going to divide by square root 3 on the other side, and we end up with cosec x is 2 over square root 3. Now remember, I don't have a cosec button on my calculator, so I've got to work with its reciprocal. So we're going to look at the third letter, which is an s, and I realize that the reciprocal of cosec is sine. So I can change cosec x to sine x, but then I just need to switch the fraction around. I can't just change cosec to sine without changing anything else, okay, because they're actually opposites. So if I'm using the opposite function, I need to use the opposite fraction as well. So instead of writing cosec, we're going to write sine x, but we must switch the fraction around. And now on the calculator, we will just type shift sine square root 3 over 2, and we end up with x is equal to 60 degrees. Let's try one more reciprocal. This time the square root 3 cot of x minus 20 is equal to 1. So the first thing I need to do is divide by square root 3, and I end up with cot of x minus 20 degrees is 1 over square root 3. Now we don't have a cot button on our calculator, so we have a look, and the third letter is a t, so the reciprocal of cot is tan. So I can change tan to cot, cot to tan. I can change it to the opposite as long as I use the opposite fraction as well. So I'm going to change 1 over square root 3 to square root 3 over 1. And now on our calculators, we can type in shift tan square root 3, because square root 3 is just the same as square root 3 over 1. And we end up with an answer of 60 degrees. But that is for the whole bracket. That's for x minus 20. So to get x on its own, we're going to take 20 degrees to the other side, and you end up with a final answer of x is equal to 80 degrees. Thanks for watching Max Maths. If you liked what you saw, please like, share and subscribe.